Hi there, welcome to the Accidental Homeschooler again. We're starting a new week, and so I thought I'd answer some questions this week, but I wanted to start with this idea, sort of an overarching idea that I don't know if it's really addressed that well in schools. We certainly don't seem to be aware of it as just sort of as individuals embarking on this journey of educating our children, this journey of being parents. But it's the rule of review and repetition. And so I want to talk to you about that because I think it's really important, and it's something that we miss as parents because we're adults. And as adults, you go to a job, you get taught the thing once, or you get shown the ropes once, and then in theory you know it. But that's not the way it works with kids. Kids take several times to learn really anything. You don't show your child how to tie their shoes once and then they tie their shoes all the time. You have to show them again and again and again. Then they do it halfway and they go, oh, okay, and what comes next? Because they haven't yet mastered the taking in of multiple step processes, if that makes sense. And so we call it repetition. The other thing is that we have to understand is children love to memorize. Now, I've talked about this in other videos, but I don't know, I certainly remember when I was a kid and I watched a lot of television and I memorized all of the commercials. I knew commercials backwards and forwards, and kids love to memorize songs. And how do you memorize? Repetition. And you review it, and you review it, and you review it, okay? So they like it. Just because you don't like it because you're an adult and you don't like it because it's boring, because once we've learned it, we know it. And why go back and repeat it again and again and again? No, kids need that. So as a home educator, you have the opportunity to push this sort of to its limit with your kids, which you ought to do. And so what you do is you use every opportunity that you have to review with your kids, to repeat the things that they've just learned. Maybe the things that they learned that morning, or maybe the things that they learned 2 days ago. And you go, okay, do you remember what we talked about, 2 days ago? Do you remember the word for to pray in Latin? Do you remember the Latin prayer? Do you remember the first president of the United States? What about the second one? What about the third one? And so you start to understand that because you are the primary educator of your child, you get to pour into them and you get to do this kind of review with them, this repetition, a lot more than you would by outsourcing your child's education to, say, the public schools, where you're not even sure exactly what it is that they're being taught every day, day in and day out, right? And so that's part of that's the homeschool element of it. But hey, even if you're planning to send your kids back to school after COVID, this is an important point for you to master in parenting your child, is that the children need the repetition, and so you can offer that to them. You can have set times every day to do the review. And you say, okay, we're going to set aside. I would do review with my young kids first thing in the morning. The other time to do review is right after they finish the lesson. Okay, let's review. What did we learn today? Okay, and then the next day when you go back to that whatever that subject matter was, you say, okay, let's review. What did we cover yesterday? And now we're going to move into the new stuff today. We do it when we do our Bible study in the morning. I'll often say, okay, so where were we in the book? What was happening yesterday where we left off? And when you review that, it's a repetition and it makes the story come alive again. And then you're ready to pursue the new material. So it's a very important tool. Yes, even if you're adults, my teenagers are nearly adult now, and we still do it. So right before the lesson, right after the lesson, but you can also have a time, maybe at the end of the day, for repetition. Let's go over, what did we learn today? You can do weekly repetition, weekly review. Let's talk about what we learned this week, and give the kids the opportunity to share it with grandma or grandpa. And especially during COVID, and it's raining now, which is no fun, you can do, FaceTime with grandma and grandpa, or the Zoom conference with the family, and you can say, listen to what Junior learned this week. Tell him, Junior, what'd you learn? And Junior gets to sing the song that he learned, or whatever it is. And then let's see. You can also encourage your kids' handwriting. So we used to do, I wanted my children to learn cursive, so I bought really fantastic cursive workbooks that had Bible quotes in them. And so when you write the Bible quote 12 or 15 times, you're learning it, right? And that's repetition, and it's good for them. And repetition, look, how do you learn to write? The only way you learn to write is by repeatedly drawing that one letter or what have you. And then lastly, you get them to ask you questions. Stump the teacher. That's always a fun game to play. In fact, when I was tutoring 7th grade, each of the children would present a report each week, and we would play, I can't remember what we called it, stump the presenter. No, stump somebody. And anyway, the presenter they would make the presentation, the report on, say it was an animal, the report on the manatee. What is the manatee and what they eat and whatever. And they would prepare a question and try to stump the audience. And so that made the audience, kids and me, take copious notes to try to, what are they going to try to stump us with? And some kids got really good at finding a question that was answered in the report, but was so obsequious that it was like, oh, I don't remember how many, whatever, and the number was, people didn't write it down properly or whatever. So, repetition. Understand that young kids especially need a lot of repetition, and that's just part of them growing up. And also understand that as you might be frustrated because it's so dang boring to be so repetitive all the time, but it's necessary for them, and one day they will be done with it, and then you'll miss those days, like I do. My kids don't need me to repeat things, and they don't, like to memorize things and stuff. So, all right, so that's my talk for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. Please subscribe, like the channel for me, and share with your friends. And good luck on your homeschool journey. It is the journey of a lifetime. I'll be back tomorrow, so be sure to tune back in. Thanks.